Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Washai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Washai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Washai, Colin, La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashem, Shalom, Yahweh, Bashem, Kakadash, double honors of the apostles, that else great Muslim, peace, sages, and the hope for elect, Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be Flesh and Blood Can't Inherit the Kingdom of Heaven. And I just want to go into some little scientific facts that Esau states on certain articles, and it pretty much shows you through the spirit that all this fantasy of trying to explore different planets and all this shit, like, man, ain't not one Edomite gonna be able to explore a planet. And you best believe in the next side in the kingdom, if they asked us to see the atmosphere and the landscape with their own two eyes and being other planets, that means that they asked to serve in captivity. You know, fixing basically our mansions, you know, building our mansions, palaces, things of that nature, building our cities in different planets. You know, because you best believe the Israelites will own planets, and we would be able to have galaxies in our names and things of that nature. We're going to be in an abundance. And I already did a lesson about how the Most High has it to where that those planets are always growing and the heavens is always being stretched out. So Esau mentions in his science that with NASA, they prove that the universe is always expanding, that the solar system is infinite pretty much, and that even some articles mentioning that it's unknown the amount of planets there are out there or the amount of galaxies. And sometimes Esau tries to put an estimated number, and then you have it to where those planets are so far stretched out, they say that it will have to take about like 1,000 light years away. You know, some planets may take 1,000,000 light years away from our galaxy or from Earth, or maybe 1,000,000,000 sometimes. And that really shows you right there the power of the Most High. Because if it takes all those years for the speed of light, at the speed of light just to get to those planets, and even the fastest spacecraft is not even at the speed of light. It's 0.064% of the speed of light. Forgot what the spacecraft is called, but I did it in my previous video. It really shows you right there that, you know, these Edomites, they're not going to be able to explore other planets. They can't even get to Mars, and that's what they're trying to do the most. But let's just get into this article. It says super fast space travel will kill you in minutes by Jamie Conlife, published November 5th, 2012. It says everyone thinks it would be cool to travel at the speed of light, which is why scientists devote their lives to working out if it would be possible, and NASA is trying to develop its own warp drive, but Easy Tiger. Turns out super fast space travel would be fatal. And let me see. It says a paper published in Natural Science brings some boring common sense to the speed of light travel table. In order to travel huge distances in the next to no time, people need to travel close to the speed of light. In so doing, travelers cover extremely large distances very quickly, and thanks to the quirks of relativity, would feel like it took mere minutes because of an effect known as time dilation, which squashes perceived time. Trouble is traveling close to the speed of light brings about other effects too in natural science. Edelstein and Edelstein point out that hydrogen in any craft capable of traveling at the speed of light would also prevent it from traveling at the speed of light, they explain. Unfortunately, as spaceship velocities approach the speed of light, interstellar hydrogen H, although only present at a density of approximately 1.8 atoms divided by divided by centimeters to the third power, turns into intense radiation that would quickly kill passengers and destroy electronic instrumentation. In addition, the energy loss of ionizing radiation passes passing through the ship's hull represents an increasing heat load that necessitates large expenditures of energy to cool the ship. In other words, travel close to the speed of light and you'll be bombarded with so much radiation that you kick the bucket. The knock-on effect is that even if it's possible to create a craft capable of traveling close the speed of light, it wouldn't be able to transport people. Instead, there's a natural speed limit imposed by safe levels of radiation due to hydrogen, which means humans couldn't travel faster than half the speed of light unless they were willing to die almost immediately. Damn it. Natural science. Wow. That was the last words of that article said, damn it. The damn it is right, because the Edomites, y'all not gonna come near enjoying the kingdom of heaven, which is meant for the Israelites. And that blessing, is meant for the nation of Israel to enjoy these other planets, I'm gonna bring out some more articles too. Calling the Habashim Shai 1044 Spirit. So now it shows you that this is the ways that human spaceflight, is hazardous. It showed 5 ways, 5 hazards, and it says this was posted on October 3rd, 2022. So they said there are 5 hazards of human spaceflight that drive risk to the human system encountered during spaceflight, pertaining to pre, post, and in-flight challenges affecting the crew's health and their ability to perform the mission. 1. Radiation. The first hazard of human mission to Mars is also the most difficult to visualize because while space radiation is invisible to the human eye, radiation is not only stealthy but considered one of the most menacing of the 5 hazards. And wait a minute, you talking about this devil wants to also give you the that charagma, which is the sea hip. That already has a lot of radiation linked to it. And the technology around you has radiation too. So how much more if you was to space travel, supposedly, which that's a fantasy, to NASA, because NASA hasn't really even space traveled to another planet. So and they can't even get past that the ozone layer where they could go to other planets. They can't get past that. And it shows, let's see, number 2, isolation and confinement. I'm not gonna really get too much in depth of the paragraphs, but it says distance from Earth, and 4 is the gravity or a lack thereof in parentheses, and 5 is hostile / closed environments. So yeah, one of the hostile closed environments in the paragraph shows important habitability factors include temperature, pressure, lighting, noise, and the quantity of space. It's essential that astronauts are getting the requisite food, sleep, and exercise needed to stay healthy and happy. But one thing I wanted to point out is that you best believe if they were to take off their whole spacesuit, they would pretty much die being out there in that atmosphere. So, and they can't even get past the that layer, where they're at. I think it's called the exosphere, but they can't get past that to where they could be able to space travel. So this article shows here's how you would die on each planet of the solar system by Ed Brown on October 30th, 2022, 5 a.m. So it says, imagining what it would be like to visit another planet has been a staple of science fiction for decades. Whether it's here in the solar system or out somewhere else in the universe or other worlds tend to intrigue us, yet it's worth remembering that humans exist on Earth and not somewhere like Mars for a reason. It's the only place in the universe that we know of that would not kill us horribly within minutes or less. Humans require oxygen to breathe. Jennifer Glass, an associate professor at the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences and Biological Sciences at the Georgia Institute of Technology, told Newsweek Earth's atmosphere today contains 20% oxygen. Without oxygen in the gas we breathe, humans die of asphyxia, lack of oxygen, in about 7 minutes. Without sufficient oxygen anywhere else in the solar system, death would come fast. The only difference between the planets is whether their temperatures or pressure would kill us faster. Here's what will happen on each planet, starting from the closest to the sun. They said a file of image skeleton inside a spacesuit throwing up the peace sign without protection. An astronaut would quickly die on every planet of the solar system except Earth. Yep. Shows you those terrestrial bodies are pretty much corruptible. It says Mercury. The fact that Mercury is the closest planet to the sun already indicates that it would not be the most hospitable of the planets. On the side of Mercury that faces the sun, temperatures soar to 800 degrees Fahrenheit as the sun blasts its nearest planet with its full force. Meanwhile, on the nighttime side, temperatures would plummet to negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because Mercury is, for all practical purposes, a vacuum and has barely any atmosphere to retain heat. Therefore, death on a cold side would be similar to death in outer space and probably be over in minutes. And quote, if you died on the hot side, you would be burnt to death in seconds while asphyxiating and having all the water vaporized from your body, said Glass. And pretty much your body is mostly made up of water. They say your body's like 70 to 80% of water. Some science shows. They say different things in different articles, but your body's definitely mostly made up of water. And that's a proven fact. So you will definitely die. And it says Venus are proportionally the most Earth-like planet in the solar system, but similarities end there. Venus' thick atmosphere gives it a greenhouse effect that sees its surface temperature soar to around 867 degrees Fahrenheit, according to NASA. And the thick atmosphere also means pressure on the surface would be lethal. Unhelpfully, it also has clouds of sulfuric acid. And quote, while struggling to breathe, you would burn from extreme heat and acid in seconds, said Glass. At least it would be a fast death, but it would be a horrible one. And Mars has probably the most survivable surface conditions of anywhere in the solar system except Earth, with temperatures reaching a pleasant 70 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, though they would plunge to 225 degrees Fahrenheit at the poles. However, even if a human were to be placed on the equator in the summer, they would not last long. Mars' atmosphere is almost pure carbon dioxide. In some ways, this would make it one of the worst planets to die on. If carbon dioxide builds up in our blood as a person asphyxiates, they experience the stressful sensation of breathlessness before losing consciousness and then dying of asphyxia, Glass said. And quote, if their blood is instead diluted by breathing a gas without carbon dioxide, for example, hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, methane, etc., the person will lose consciousness in a few seconds without feeling breathlessness, so the death will be less painful, but they would still die in about a few minutes from a lack of oxygen. Wow. In short, death on Mars may be more drawn out than elsewhere in the solar system and potentially accompanied by extreme cold. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the gas giants of the solar system, are grouped together because the death process would be basically the same, but also variable depending on where on the planet you go, since they don't have a surface. Being placed at the center of a gas giant means instantaneous death that would likely be too quick to even experience. The core of Saturn, for instance, is thought to be around 15,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and the pressure at the core of Jupiter is so high that it would be like having 160,000 cars stacked on top of each other all over your body. Wow. See, I didn't even know that part. And then basically, like, when you see Dragon Ball Z, they show you those different planets those Dragon Ball Z characters go on, and then they show you like the gravity pressure, and that when they go in that uh what you call it, that little spacecraft that they be going on the spaceships to travel to different planets. There's a way where they could train and do, like times gravity training. You feel me? And they are trained to handle 10 times gravity and things of that nature. And I might show a clip in this video. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike on it, but it's gonna show you something about how, you know, it's gonna be like for these heathens if they were to go on other planets without a spacesuit, you know. But yeah, that's the reason why we need those extraterrestrial bodies. And it says in the paragraph, out in the clouds, it may be a slightly different experience, but with the same inevitable ending. Temperatures range from negative 166 degrees Fahrenheit on Jupiter to negative 330 degrees Fahrenheit on Neptune. And quote, there is no solid ground on the gas giants, so you would simply fall through them until you were crushed under their intense pressure, said Glass. Though you would die well before reaching the core, and quote, their atmospheres are composed of hydrogen with some helium, methane, and water, but minimal carbon dioxide, so at least as you froze and were crushed to death, you would lose consciousness more gently without the panic of hypercapnia due to high carbon dioxide as on Venus and Mars. Last paragraph, some moons. As an added bonus, humans will also die on all the moons of the solar system. Betul Kakar, a professor and lead scientist at the NASA Center for Early Life and Evolution at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, told Newsweek that aside from not being able to breathe, people could experience being, and quote, bathed in irradiation as you pass through Jupiter's magnetic fields, on Europa being, and quote, flash frozen in a lake of methane and ethane on Titan, or being, and quote, blasted out into space in an icy geyser on Enceladus. In short, do not forget your spacesuit. So now with that, bring out this video that I wanted to point out about how would it feel for these other nations to be on certain planets that Israelites will own, and how would it be if they didn't have their spacesuit, even if the planet seemed to be Earth-like, because there's definitely planets out there that would make these other nations feel, like this. In this clip I'm gonna show.
You've got to be super strong just to stand up here. I made it. Now, just one step at a time. There's a house. That's got to be Guy's place. Almost there. I can make it! Wait a second. I thought I smelled food. Well, first things first.
So basically, I'll get the point. That's how it would be if, Esau or these other nations were to travel, let's say, like, well, not travel, but if they were to be on other planets with their terrestrial bodies. And with that, I'll bring out some scriptures, Lord willing, make this lesson edifying. See, hope for elect. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50 says, "Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption." Um, yeah, so pretty much that shows you right there that these bodies are corruptible because they could be perished under like certain temperatures. And another thing as well, these bodies could also be harmed under like certain temperatures, or being under certain elements. Yeah, being exposed to certain elements, you know. And these bodies could also, they're pretty much like sensitive to certain atmospheres and certain gravity pressures, you know. And that's pretty much how the human body is made. And one thing about this truth, you will understand that the Most High, well, starting with the elect, he will eventually turn his people from being mortals back to their godlike status that they once had in the Garden of Eden. You know, because the Adamites, they were the sons of God. You know, people who came from the line of Adam. And pretty much back in that time, you had the sons of men and the sons of the wicked and the sons of Adam, which were the sons of God, which were the Adamites. And when it's coming to that godly status that our people once had before Adam fell, we didn't have, you know, these corruptible bodies back then. The only thing that happened when Adam fell was that when he you know, following after his wife Eve, when his wife sinned, that's when all the curses happened. You know, that's when the Most High said, you know, if you learn after the ways of the heathen, which is eating of the knowledge of good and evil, that you shall surely die. You know, and it wasn't really fruit; it was actually, you know, food for thought. You know, following after the philosophies and the ways of the heathens. That's what led to us being mortals. And this is what's going to happen. It says, verse 51, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We should not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." And this is talking about the nation of Israel. "For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality." So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, "Death is swallowed up in victory." Exactly. And these bodies are pretty much bodies of, you know, of death, to be honest, because these are mortal bodies. And when you look at the word mortality, mortality means you know, is death. But being immortal is something that's like everlasting life. You know, because when you're immortal, you will never die. You will always live forever. That's eternal life. And that's only promised to the Israelites, not to any other heathen nation. And when you look into the incorruptible bodies, that's part of the incorruptible crown that Apostle Paul was talking about in the scriptures, as well as the rest of the incorruptible crown will be receiving spiritual power with those fourth dimensional bodies, and receiving you know, planets, galaxies, things of that nature, you know. And then infinity after that, because there ain't gonna be no limit to how rich our people gonna be. You know, you see, one thing about Esau, they talk about millionaires, uh, billionaires, and all this other shit. Like, nah, there ain't gonna be no limit to how much we can own or how much we gonna have. feel me? And even the 2/3 in the kingdom, their starter pack is gonna be having a bunch of small pocket planets, things of that nature. They're gonna have way more land than the Rothschilds or Rockefellers ever had. So our people's gonna be in abundance, but you best believe there's gonna be obviously a certain level to what the elect has access to compared to what the 2/3 have access to. And even within the elect, there's gonna be some brothers amongst the elect, like different layers, that have way more than others. But at the same time, we still gonna be grateful for our gifts, you know. And this is the striving for mastery within receiving that incorruptible crown, you know, because you want to basically receive the highest level that you could achieve for that's fighting for that crown, you know. But obviously the Lord is going to give you your position in His truth, you know, but you still obviously want to be motivated to fight for it. Many people in this world, they're trying to seek for corruptible vain glory and fame, you know. This is part of laying your treasures up in heaven when you in this truth, like doing the works and stuff, because these treasures in heaven, ain't nobody gonna, none of the nation of our people gonna go off. They're not gonna steal. They're not gonna do corruptible shit no more. Like, nah. It's gonna be a thing where everybody's gonna be grateful for what they have, and we're never gonna not receive anything no more. I want to bring out a few more precepts. And in Jude, the first chapter, let me see, verse 6, Slakia. It says, "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, He hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day." And that chains of darkness is not really talking about it's not talking about like an angel being casted underneath of the earth in chains of darkness. It's not talking about the stupid doctrines that these Christians come up with the Nephilim. Because honestly, we're pretty much fallen angels. We're the Nephilim. You know, one thing you gotta understand when it's coming to Christianity, there's a lot of bugged out theories and doctrines amongst Christianity, because they don't understand and they don't know the precepts of this truth. So, they hear certain words and they don't really do their research and they don't do their studying, because they go by what their pastors have been telling them and all this bullshit, and then they go by what other Christians say. So that's where the corruption, that's where the bugged out philosophies come from. But the angels that kept not their first estate was talking about, the sons of God back in the time of in the Garden of Eden, and at one point in Genesis it was mentioned that about the giants in those days that went into the daughters of men. That's going to pretty much how the nation of our people, how we was, pretty much dealing with the heathen woman and basically following after their customs and following after their ways, and eventually that's what weakened us over time. Because as a nation of people, we weren't supposed to learn after the ways of the heathen, and we weren't supposed to like have children with them, in terms of like basically when you have children with the heathen woman, eventually your children are going to end up losing their original looks. That's why we have confusion of face Israelites, and that's why you will see Israelites that look like other nations, they will eventually lose their natural genes, and their genes will eventually become more recessive. Like, let's say they may end up getting blue eyes eventually, blonde hair, straight hair. So you got Israelites out there that look like other nations basically, and learn after the ways of the heathen. I mean, that was a curse in Deuteronomy 28, of course. That the Most High promised that we wouldn't know our power and be scattered all throughout the four corners of the earth. That's pretty much what happened to us, you know. And learning after the ways of the heathen, it weakened us and our connection with the Most High to the point where He had to hid His face from us, you know. And eventually, we got oppressed, and the heathens basically um, overpowered us in the sense of like the Most High gave them power over us as a punishment for going off. So it keeps our people in our oppressed state, you know. It kept us destroyed, and eventually, um, when Adam went off, that's how we basically became mortals. And the fact that we became mortals, like, that's what made us eventually, um, live up to a certain age and die. Because we was originally supposed to be immortal. But that's pretty much what happened. But, these things were meant to happen because, like Elder High Priest Yaquab said, that we were supposed to learn wickedness to truly appreciate righteousness. That's the reason why we're going through this, So we could become a better judge, in a sense, to realize, like, okay, this is what will happen if we were to live a sinful life. These things will happen if iniquity was to abound, Like, you see the consequences and the judgment for it, and eventually in the kingdom of heaven, when the Most High gives you those incorruptible bodies to where you would never go off again, you're going to be a better judge in the sense of, like, being quick to execute judgment on a heathen nation for doing the sins that you did at one point and that you got judged for, So honestly, it was meant to happen to pretty much show us how to be better judges. And pretty much our first estate was actually how we were in the Garden of Eden, having those spiritual bodies. But until obviously Eve fell, and then Adam went off and fell along with his wife for following after the customs that his wife was taking on, which were the customs of the heathen after following the serpent. That's how we fell as a nation. I'm gonna bring out another precept. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 2, it says, "And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God." And pretty much, when it's coming to the blessings that the Most High promised us, like, if we were to hearken unto His voice, like, the heathens will always be basically blessing us. They'll give us gifts continuously. They'll bow down to us. The way they treat us now is like they treat us like shit, But if we come in contact with our power, which is the Most High and His Son, and we basically have those incorruptible bodies, like, in the kingdom, which is promised, these heathens, they will respect us, and they will always keep blessing us with gifts. They will serve us with continual employment and so forth. And pretty much, like, these blessings will be so much to fathom, like, you wouldn't be able to maintain your spirit, And I want to bring up a point of why flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom. So I just want to show the Google searches that you have people that actually faint. It's a thing where people really faint for winning certain prizes, like, and these are just, worldly possessions, like corruptible crowns, basically. You feel me? People collapsing, fainting just for winning a prize. Like, come on, man. $1 million, like the purchasing power of $1 million as of this year, and even this month and year as I speak, like, the value of money is basically decreasing as much as possible. Like, every year, or should I say, like, every day, the value of money always goes down, and the money that was, let's say, previously printed before was higher in value than the money that's being currently printed. So with that being said, um, the value of money is always decreasing, and basically you have inflation that's driving up, which decreases the value of money, and money is not really reserved by gold and silver, which is true money. It's not backed up by that. So these people fainting for $1 million, prizes, or sometimes like you even see on game shows, people be crying, jumping up and down on, you know, they really like act like this has changed their whole life, which in a sense it does for a short amount of time until if they can't spend their money right, then they end up being broke again, you know. And it shows you right there, that's why you need to have wisdom when it's coming to using money, because money's a defense. But hey man, in the kingdom of heaven ain't gonna be a time where our people gonna be poor or broke, because we ain't gonna have to worry about homelessness. We ain't gonna have to worry about working, because Jake ain't working for a damn thing in the kingdom of heaven. And this is First Kings chapter 10. Let me see. I start at verse 1. It says, "And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, I don't know why he wrote it like that. She communed with him of all that was in her heart," which means mind. "And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all of Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up unto the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her." And when you go to the definition of that word spirit, which I'm not going to bring it out, I'll probably bring it out in another lesson when I make another example about, the kingdom of heaven or so in another video. So the video's already went too long, but when you go into the word spirit, that goes into the word breath as well. So she basically fainted, and even in a new letter, no, I think it's a New Living Translation, Slovakia. In the Blue Letter Bible, when you go to different translations of that word spirit, some of the scriptures will say that how some of the different translations of the Bible will say that she was overwhelmed, So basically, she pretty much, fainted, you know. And she was really shocked to see, as a queen, even one of the richest queens back then, she was shocked herself to see the glory of Solomon. And that's just vain glory, because Solomon knew all that wealth that he had was only just like for only 40 years, So he knew that was vanity. So even though he had all that, it was basically gonna be riches passed down to someone else, And he knew with all the wisdom he had, all that money wasn't worth anything, to be honest, because wisdom is more important than wealth. Because wisdom is what helps you maintain your wealth, honestly. And when it comes to the wealth that he had, to see that it really like to where it had a level of impact on the queen, to where she fainted just seeing his majesty and his glory, how much more the kingdom of heaven? And in the what you call it, that movie Aladdin, talking about a whole new world, that's basically what the kingdom of heaven is going to be. It's going to be a whole new world, and it's going to be so glorious to where you will want to be a 9 to 5 worker in the kingdom of heaven, than being a rich man on this side in earth. And brothers in the spirit be saying that they'd rather be a doorman in the kingdom of heaven than to be a rich man on this earth. Scriptures tell you that no eye have seen, no ear have heard what the Son of Man have prepared. I mean, what the Most High have prepared for those that, that loved him, roughly paraphrasing. So yeah. So all the beautiful artworks that you see about people trying to make up what the kingdom of heaven could be like, or people that try to scriptures say that it hasn't even entered in the hearts of men. So, and the Most High seals everyone's instructions to make that beautiful artwork when they try to talk about fantasy planets, landscapes, and all that shit. Like, come on, man. The Most High is gonna, the blessings that he gonna give the nation of Israel, we have to be in those spiritual bodies, because if not, yo, we would pretty much die receiving those blessings in a physical body. And plus, these bodies go off anyway because we're not keeping all the law, statute, commandments in these terrestrial bodies. It would have to be in the fourth dimensional bodies to where we could keep the new covenant, which is following the law, statute, commandments, to where we're programmed to do it. So, not only that these bodies are corruptible to where we're going to go off and shit, but it's corruptible to the point where you will be harmed and you will most likely perish being on other planets' atmospheres in this fleshly body, or doing space travel. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That's all I want to get out. I went through the spirit in this video. I really put a lot of effort into it, brought out a lot of pieces of evidence and even decent amount of scriptures going into the kingdom of heaven, on how flesh and blood can't inherit it. And basically it's going to be to the point where even Yahushai's servants are going to look just like him, in a sense. Like, you're going to run to certain members of the elect and you're going to think that, oh shit, is this Yahushai? Is this like, that's how glorious his servants are going to look. And honestly speaking, like, everything on this earth, all this corruptible crowns and this vain glory, like in the kingdom, you're gonna be a forever glorious, star. You're never gonna have your light put out in the kingdom of heaven. That trend of righteousness is gonna be an ongoing trend for eternity. One thing about trends on the earth, it comes and goes. There's always a new trend that's more popular than the previous ones, and it's all wickedness any damn way that's being pushed out on this earth. But one thing about righteousness in the kingdom is going to be a forever trend. Yep. Doing partnerships with the Heavenly Father and with his son Yahushua, doing partnerships with the rest of the elect. People talking about partnerships with Nike, partnerships with Adidas, being a celebrity on this side. That ain't shit. Then when you speak against these gutter rats, they want to basically freeze your accounts and all that shit, and make you and defame you and expose you for the wickedness that you did, that they had you to do as a ritual, so that they can have something against you. And please, the fame that you will get just for the Lord choosing you as his elect, just to make it through this destruction of Babylon, you'll be a celebrity just from that, being a 1/3, and amongst the 1/3, 144,000 to on that seat where you're judging the 12 tribes of Israel, pretty much like setting up laws and stuff for them to follow and things of that nature, paving the way of righteousness. Yeah, man. But that's it on that. Let's give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai Yahweh Bashem Shamalak Yahushua Bashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone, peace, citation, hopeful elect. Yahweh Shem Shabbat Bakshah Shalak Rayam Adawam Yamwa Goyam Wa Ababa Shalom.